Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to get singles for all your Force of Will and other trading card games, as well as these amazing patrons.
Thank you for your support. Enjoy the video.
Hey there, Rulers. Welcome back to Ruler School. This is DMO73, bringing you recording of a feature match from actually taken during Charlotte, while I was in the Charlotte GP, between myself on the Teachers Lounge Lich list that we built. Try saying that 4 times fast. That we built live on the podcast. And I'm playing against Stephen Wells, who was kind enough to help me with some of the equipment for the event, and also brought this really fun White Black Atom list. So I decided to throw the two against each other and see who'd come out on top. So let's go ahead and dig right in and see how this plays out. So the Lich list obviously is this red-black, kind of a little bit more aggressive. We had Kane, we had a lot of 2-drops, and we kind of had our top end. We had the Grim 3-drop, as well as, again, like I said, to really make use of the fact that we can summon all these tokens. We played a couple Kane the Demon, so that we could suddenly be chipping you for a ton of damage with all these tokens that we're producing. And the Atom list really is just trying to flip Atom as much as possible, using a kind of similar package to what Brunhild has been using in terms of the Messenger of the Sun and stuff, but then ultimately trying to look to kind of use Atom's flip side to get those things at instant speed, drawing the cards and getting a lot of value out of it. So first turn, just going to try to burn myself for 2, play that Majin Dark Elf. He does have the miscalculation from the Energize to be able to stop it, but I'm okay with that because it at least stole the Energize off of him. Plays that Acolyte of the Sun. I get a mystery counter on my turn, go to 2 stones. Looking at my hand, it looks like I have a Grim in there, as well as a couple other smaller cards. Another Majin Dark Elf I could consider playing. Knowing that there is that miscalculation possibilities there, I don't necessarily want to burn myself too much. But I do actually go ahead and just decide to play the... I changed that mind, I guess, entirely, and decided to play the Majin Dark Elf and swing it for 6. And I don't think you have 2 miscalculations. And even if so, we'll make you waste it and then follow it up with another play. So we'll hit him for 6. He's going to use that Acolyte then to play Whispers of the Sun, which lets him gain 8 and draw a card. So kind of negating what I've done, but also at the same time, he still now has to deal with that threat of a 6/6 on board. Going into his next turn, he plays that Venus. He's going to use it to draw a card. Draws and has another Venus there, so he's going to use that to draw again. Seeming like his hand might be a little bit flooded. Does see that Mephistopheles, which is a pretty effective card, especially against Lich, with his Master Rune and the tokens. Magic Stone of Corruption, gonna go ahead and pay 3. I'm playing against a light deck, and I know that it doesn't have access to the Brunhild board wipe, so I'm gonna go ahead and play that Grim of the Crimson Moon. Super powerful card against a white deck, simply because it just can't be targeted by anything white. And if he does flip Atom, it's a very easy way to just kill it, especially since Lich only judgments for 3. So we can get those mystery counters really, really easily with Grim swinging in the air. Grim is pretty much safe, and then if he ever does flip Atom, I can just flip the Grim as needed to kind of wipe the board that way, or to clear the Atom off the board that way. Probably thinking about whether he wants to Judgment here. I think that'd probably be a bad decision. Looking at his hand, though, it looks like he has several copies of of Siegfried in his hand. Apologies for the cough. Call Stone. Debating whether or not he wants to play that Mephistopheles right now. Looks like he might. Does decide to pay 3. Yep, out comes the Mephistopheles, so now any of my creatures are going to come in and play tapped. Like I said, that's really good against the Spectre Rush combo, because then all the tokens just come in and play tapped, and you can't make use of them to kill stuff. So getting another mystery counter here off of the Stone of the Dark Castle. See, I have a second Grim here in hand. Paying 1 to cast Look of Corruption. Looking at his hand here, we see a Messenger of the Sun, and then 4 Siegfrieds, and a Mistletoe. So obviously the main pick is to hit the Messenger of the Sun, and then if I have a Glint of Insight in hand, use that to steal the 4 Siegfrieds. Siegfried is a potential way to get around the Grim. If I do swing, he could cast the get to Balmung and be able to cast that for free, and thus being able to wipe all of my things that are tapped. So that is something I need to take into consideration. that's just important. Play the Contract Demon. Don't worry, I do tap it, but I'm going to hurt myself for 4 here. Trying to see if I can even maybe draw into a Glint of Insight. The Corrupted Demon, yep, catching that it needs to come into play tapped, so it is vulnerable. And as the Mephistopheles right now is bigger than the Grim, it actually makes more sense for me to kind of play it safe and not swing. But I make the foolish mistake anyway, and I decide to swing. Main reason why I think is because I have that Sword of the New Moon, so I'm a little bit more comfortable with having that removal spell potentially. Not necessarily this, and knowing that his hand doesn't have anything to be able to protect him. Just to say, before you even have the chance to draw another card, like I said, going to use that Sword of the New Moon while I know what his hand is to try to kill the Mephistopheles. Now, ultimately, that could have backfired because I don't know what his rune deck is. If his rune deck had Ring of the Immortal, that would have been a really punishing play. The smarter play line would have been to use the 1 mystery counter I had to try to kill the Mephistopheles, see if he Rings of Immortals, and if he doesn't, then swing in with the Grim. But there was really no reason for me to swing with the Grim first. Plays that Messenger of the Sun, so we're probably going to see, you know, I still know every card in his hand at this point, but we're probably going to see some other cards get drawn into his hand very, very quickly. Calling for a stone, hitting another Null Darkness stone. Another Contract Demon, again, just trying to see if I can maybe dig into a Glint of Insight to try to rip all of those Siegfrieds out of his hand. Hurting myself down to 28. Swinging in with the Grim again, trying to swing in for 7, take him down to 28. And then at that point, just passing the turn. I don't think there's really a reason for me to not swing in with the Majin. The main reason is that I don't know what's sitting in his rune deck. Steven's going to make the decision to Judgment in response to Judgment on his turn, though. Thinking about what I want to do here. So I'm going to say, you know what, before you start casting things at instant speed crazy, let's go ahead and do Jet Black Wings to make it so that you're not going to get as much draw power as you can. So he's going to float the 1 will off of the Acolyte, and then all of those creatures are going to get wiped off the board, and he will be locked out for the rest of the turn from being able to play anything that's 600 or less. This is a pretty powerful play for White against White. Jet Black Wings actually has a pretty strong way of kind of equalizing the board, mainly because a lot of their early game creatures or a lot of their stuff that they use to kind of maintain tempo has really low defense. So Jet Black Wings can kind of establish this board state where you're like, well, I don't know what you were hoping to grab with an error or something like that. It's just going to immediately die because of this cloud effect that comes from Jet Black Wings. So going into my turn, he does have access to 1 will, and he does have some instant speed runes that he can make use of. He's used only 1 of his runes, so that means the other 4 are still able to be cast using the instant speed bonus and potentially all of the extra gains that come from Adam using those runes. Adam can tap something down, add defense to something, let him gain 400 life per time that he casts a rune at instant speed. So you see I'm sitting on that second Grim in hand. Could cast it if I really wanted to, just to be able to have multiple ways to perform, you know, multiple instances of the Perform Judgment. I don't want to get too greedy though. So instead we decide to cast the Glint, and we're going to rip all of those. We finally saw the Glint, so we're going to take all of those Siegfrieds out of his hand. He's thinking about if he wants to do something in response. So this hand, it looks like, is 4 Siegfrieds, a Mistletoe, and an Atom Seikhert. Knowing that I have the mystery counters to be able to burn, the best play line here would be to take the Siegfrieds and then give it the mystery counter and take the Mistletoes as well. The best play, however, would be for me to take the Siegfrieds here, perform Judgment to kill the Atom Seikhert, forcing him to potentially draw as many cards as he wants. In fact, the better play line in general for this would have been to force him to draw as many cards as possible with the Atom play by forcing the kill with the Grim, and then casting the Glint of Insight to take the Siegfrieds so that I could steal the most cards possible with an potential comeback card possible with the Glint that comes off the tail end. With the flashback, essentially, the remnant of the Glint. So now I have taken the Misty. He didn't respond. I know he has the Atom Seikhert in hand, but at this point in time, if he draws any more cards, thanks to Atom, you know, like using Interior Summon and the instant speed stuff that comes out of that, I won't be able to steal those away because I've already burned. See, like here, I was even planning on performing Judgment, where I should have just flipped the Grim first, forcing the punish with the Grim, and then forcing the activations of Atom, and then glinted. So here, in response to the Grim activation, he's going to cast an Interior Summon at instant speed, lets him revive back a creature. It costs 2 or less. He's going to grab that Messenger, the human, and he can tap down something. So he can tap down the he decides to tap down one of the demons. After that resolves, but still before the Grim resolves, he's going to go ahead and cast Sandstorm. Lets him tap down something else and draw a card. And then, even before that goes, he says, you know what, might as well get one more card out. It's not really doing me anything at this point anyway. And casts Blessing of the Sun at instant speed. Lets him tap down the Majin, so he's going to take as little damage as possible this turn. And gets him to draw a card. So still gets to swing in for a grand with the Grim, taking him down to 18. But now he's got essentially 4 unknowns in his hand that I didn't necessarily have to worry about, or that I could have waited and stolen the more prominent things out of it to even just further seal in the game. Call Stone here only has access to 1 more rune left in the rune deck, which is the Atom one. Still can't deal with the Grim, unfortunately. See, he does have another Mephistopheles. That's not really going to do much against this currently established board state. He also has, like I said, the Master Rune from Atom. And then the 2, a Missile. He's got a Miscalculation and an Idol, which at this point in time don't really do a ton. So it's actually better for him to just kind of try to draw another card and use the Grand Lightning to save himself some damage. So he's going to remove one of the Contract Demons. He gets to draw a card off of the Messenger of the Sun, and now he's just staring down this board state. Now we get into a position where Jeremy makes a stupid mistake, which is to don't forget about Mephistopheles, and I cast Circle of Death and the Spectre Rush. So I generate 2 tokens, but they come into play tapped because of Mephistopheles. And we start to kind of walk through the process, and we're like, oh yeah, wait. We catch the fact that they couldn't have possibly done that. So they both come into play tapped, and at the end of the turn, they're going to get exiled. So neither of them are actually going to get to kill something or run into anything to try to kill them. So we'll play... have those 2 counters out there. I swing in for 10 with the Grim, taking him down to 8. Swing in for 6. Blocks with the Messenger. The Messenger's going to die. Swing in for 6. They trade. I have a token that doesn't come into play tapped because of Lich having a Darkness Resonator die. And then Lich gets to swing in for 6. Takes him down to 2. Play a skeleton token that doesn't matter. And then those 2 tokens die. So I spent 4 will to do nothing. So the takeaway lesson from this is never forget about Mephistopheles. It's not played super commonly, but it is a pretty debilitating effect in some situations. So he calls his Stone. Pays 4 to play Balmung and destroy two of my guys. Gets the Grimmath there. And then looks like he has nothing to be able to cast anything. He just has a couple of idols and a miscalc, so he can't possibly stop the Lich. So that is it for game 1, and we move on to game 2.
As we go into the next game, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell down below so you're notified when all of our videos goes live, and consider supporting the channel by being a member here on YouTube or by checking it out on Patreon for all the cool exclusive perks that come with supporting us. Thank you guys so much. Let's go to the next game.
So here in game 2, Lich is going to be on the draw. Hopefully we get to see a little bit more of what that Lich deck is kind of designed to do, as well as seeing the Atom actually get to do some of its work. There is some interesting playline potentials with the rune combination he has here. It looks like he's got the Atom Master Rune, Whispers of the Angel, the Blessing of the Sun, Sandstorm, and then Einherjar Summon. So doesn't have anything on his turn 1, goes to me, play Skeleton Horde. He says, well, I'll Whispers then. During the upkeep, and then go to 48, draw another card. See that March Hare come out. Pretty staple in red deck or in white decks, especially white decks that like to flip their runes a lot. Getting access to a 9/9 Drain. Sitting on 3 will here, thanks to the Energized coin, debating whether or not I want to throw out a 3-drop. So we'll go ahead and put out a Ray. Ray feels like it could be pretty heavy-handed if it gets to being a 0. It's that Magic Stone of Faith. We've got that Apostle. Looks like he has 3 Rival of the Hero in hand, which is really, really good if he can get Atom flipped over next turn. And then we have that Messenger of the Sun too. So really well established. Really well established board state for white in this format. The 0 is going to get to flip over, which does slow things down a little bit. It will then take 2 Arrival of the Heroes for him to be able to kill it, or he'll have to try to ping stuff off. The beauty is, though, that Atom himself can serve as a way to remove those barriers from 0. Going up to 4 stones here. Play a Contract Demon again, drawing a card. Going down to 36 life. Playing Look of Corruption. And it's here we see the Arrival of the Hero set. Knowing that he has 1 will available, the clear take here is to snag the Miscalculation, just to get that removal spell off the board. Leaving 3, again, just leaves me open to potentially... Oh, but I decide instead to go ahead and take the Siegfried, which I think is an interesting decision on my part. I think I should have just taken the Miscalc. Siegfried himself, sure, does a lot in the late game, but ultimately still takes a pretty heavy commitment, which is something my deck likes to capitalize on, especially considering the fact that he's a deck that likes to Judgment and then keep Atom safe, so his will might be pretty low. So before the upkeep, he's actually going to use this card that he drew, which is... Flourishing Hope on the 0 to then immediately get it canceled. He goes to start to flipping the card over to invert it, but we do catch it. You can't invert the card because Flourishing Hope is canceled by 0. So it won't actually get to finish resolving its effect. So he's already popping the bubble on 0 here before the upkeep, which I think is a really smart decision, because now what he's going to be able to do is do Judgment, set up a nice little play, have extra will, and he can use one of his free runes, potentially, like Sandstorm, to tap down the 0 with Atom, and then you're going to get to see him use that Arrival of the Hero to immediately just kill the 0 out of the way, thus putting him in a much better position. Sandstorm's really not going to do much against this deck anyway. It's mainly the fact that it's a Divinity 1 free rune, so it essentially just counts as a free activation for Atom in just situations like this. Like I said, we see the Sandstorm cast. Atom Seikhert's going to go ahead and tap down the 0. I don't really see if I have anything to respond to it, and I'm like, okay, well, that's going to die then. He's going to go ahead and Arrival of the Hero. I'll say, well, before it dies, I'll burn my Energize here. Cast the Power of Immortality, and at which point in time I'm just forcing him to use another Arrival of the Hero to make sure I don't get the Ray to come back. So I forced him to burn 3 cards to kill that 0, 4 cards essentially, because he also had to use the Sandstorm, which makes me feel pretty good. He does get to draw 1 card for drawing the Messenger of the Sun, and you see he does have that Mephistopheles again. It is going to take him until next turn to be able to play it though. So now I know in his hand that he has a Miscalculation and 1 Arrival of the Hero. Not entirely sure what the next card is though. Fourth stone here, sitting on the Grim that I could cast. With the Atom already being out though, and the fact that there's that 9/9 March Hare, kind of thinking about there might be some other play lines that I want to take here. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw out the Joan d'Arc. He only has 1 will right now, so I'm not really worried about the Joan d'Arc being removed. So I actually just decided to play 2 Joan d'Arcs and say, let's go ahead and force some plays and get some indestructible genes crashing into stuff right now. So first, we're actually just going to go ahead and push face, try 7 damage, see what happens there. He says, sure, that's fine, I'll take it. Go down to 41. Swing into the Acolyte. He says, sure, that's fine, I'll take that as well. That'll die. Go to his turn. So now he's sitting at only 3 will, which, knowing that his deck actually runs a lot of 3-drops like Mephistopheles and stuff, having him be at 3 will when he also wants to be making use of Atom Seikhert, but he's already used one of his instant speeds. See, I'm forcing him to use another one here with the Herdiar summon, so he's already almost out of utility that he's used from the Atom. Now Stephen makes a really smart play here, which is in the upkeep, he's going to cast that instant speed Blessing of the Sun, tapping down my last Resonator before he even gets to move to recover. Now he has 4 reveals, which means that his March Hare is a base stat 9/9, so it's going to actually be swinging for 11/11 with Drain here. Everything's tapped down, so everything gets to be buffed. He gets to swing in for a ton of damage, and he gets to recover everything at the end of turn. So he's going to be putting me a lot of pressure on here, and he doesn't even have to play any cards to do it. And you see he has that Arrival of the Hero as well. Swings in for 11, so a 22-point life swing, taking him out to 52 and taking me down to 25. Swinging in for 4, taking me down to 21. Swinging into me for another 4, taking me down to 17. And then hitting me with Atom for 8 to take me down to 9. Or no, actually, sorry, it is 1,000. So he'd take me down to 700. So deals his damage and then just passes the turn, so it gets to recover everything, keeping everything safe, and has 4 will open to be able to deal with whatever he wants. He does have access to the Master Rune, and he does have access to that Arrival of the Hero. He's going to go ahead and use that Master Rune now, getting to tap down one of the genes on my turn. Now he just has to deal with one of the other creatures, and then he'll be able to kill the gene with that Arrival of the Hero that's still in his hand. He does have that miscalculation, as you can see. Calling for Stone, the Lich, putting a Magic Stone Corruption in the Rune deck, which is not the right position. See, I still have that Grim there. Little too late, really. I do have the Kame, which is nice, and the Sword of the New Moon as well. So I just actually decided to go ahead and pass the turn and see what comes up. Main reason because I still have that Jet Black Wings on the back partner. Toss into an Atom Seikhert. He's now completely runed out, so Atom the Ruler is not going to be really able to do anything. Didn't find a moment to miscalc, So my Gene is still currently protected. Pays 3 for the Mephistopheles, which I kind of expected to come down at this point. Swings in with the March Hare. I say, you know what? Let's go ahead and trade. I'll block with the Contract Demon here. He's debating whether or not he wants to use that Arrival of the Hero on it to see if he can get in that 9 damage lifelink and finish the game off. He's gonna go ahead and use that last Arrival, and I make a pretty big misplay here. So the proper play would be to use the Jet Black Wings to wipe all of the board and force the March Hare to only hit me for 3. I'd go down to 4, which is fine, and then have enough will to be able to do Jet Black Wings, or doing the do the cast of this Sword of the New Moon on the Mephistopheles. That would have been the proper play. I do this backwards though, which is that I go ahead and say, well, I don't want to take any damage. I'll Sword of the New Moon here, and then just take the just make it so that we both lose our creatures. I do still get to keep Joan, which feels nice. He's gonna go ahead and swing in, or sorry, he uses one of the apostles to pay for another apostle or speaker. Swings in with the Atom. I'll go ahead and block. Says that's fine. Skeleton token comes into play tapped. So Messenger can just kill it if he wants. So the other play line here could have been to do the same kind of plays that I was just doing, but also cast Circle of Death. You know, off that misplay, cast the Circle of Death, so that each time he tried to kill one of my creatures, he'd have to sacrifice another one. Instead, we're gonna go ahead and during the upkeep do Jet Black Wings. Still have to deal with the Mephistopheles, unfortunately, and I don't have a Sword of the New Moon to deal with it. So move to recover. The white that he floated with the Apostle goes away. Do have access to that Glint, which feels pretty nice. But everything's still going to be coming into play tapped, which is not something I want to deal with when I only have 700 life left on the board. So attempt to go into combat, make the best of a bad situation here, use the Gene to swing into the Atom. He says, sure, that's fine. In response to no blocks, though, we're going to go ahead and cast that Circle of Death. So when Gene dies and does put those 7 counters on Atom, he does have to sacrifice the Mephistopheles. So now Atom can only hit us for 1 per turn, which puts us at a pretty good position at 700 life. Call for Stone, and I can play that Grim if I need to, or just reestablish a board state with like all the other stuff. And I say, you know what? No, let's go ahead and play the Grim now. You can't touch him. The board state is established. If you do play another Mephistopheles, I can just immediately answer it, and we can go from there. He's in a weird position here too, where at this point in time, it might as well just benefit him to just be calling stones with the Atom, so that he can keep ahead on his curve. Because at this point in time, Atom's really not going to be able to do much, and all of his runes are done. So he wants to be, you know, sitting on only 3 will when I'm coming up on 6, 7, 8 will is a really bad place for him to be, especially when we both have no board state and we're just trying to establish. It just means I can establish a lot more presence on board every single turn than he can. Has another one of those March Hares. See, he has a Siegfried there. He also has a Flourishing Hope, which is nice because he did get access to a couple of those Magic Stones of Hope. So those eventually will become Burgeoning Despairs. Be able to help clear the board. See a Welser here. My life total is a little bit too low for me to feel comfortable casting that Welser with a God Art. Calling Stone with the Lich, getting another mystery counter. Burning myself 4. Before I do that, though, I say, you know what? Let's go ahead and steal what I think is still in there as a miscalculation. Just thinking about whether or not someone wants to cast a card before the card resolves. He says, no, that's fine. Yeah, I call it miscalculation. Oh, I think I actually called Protection of the Seraph instead. Or Protection of the Angels. I always called that card the wrong card. I just wanted to make sure that this play would actually resolve and not get punished. So I'm going to burn myself for 4. Play this Kame. I get to steal his March Hare. He does have Swiftness. So that's fine. Now, my March Hare does have Drain because I have 2 runes revealed, but it doesn't have the pump. So we'll swing in with Grim at the Atom Seikhert to go ahead and kill it. Gain a couple mystery counters, ping him for 2 life. Cast the Glint of Insight here, now that we have those extra mystery counters, to try to steal the miscalculation. He'll cast the Flourishing Hope on my Kame because he wants to get access to Burgeoning Despair, which makes total sense. Then I'll go ahead and call the miscalculation, leaving him with a Siegfried and an Atom, both of which I'm not really concerned about him having in his hand. Swinging with the March Hare, ping him for another 2 because of Kame, hit him for another 6 with the March Hare, taking him down to 42, and gets to drain me back up to 9 life. And then I'm going to go ahead and burn myself too, using my other Null Darkness Stone. Sacrifice the March Hare to give my Kame Swiftness, swinging him for another 12, taking him down to 30. So essentially I just looped my life around for a turn to deal a ton of damage and also clear the board of that March Hare. Hits another Magic Stone of Hope here. Could just cast the Burgeoning Despair and get the 2 creatures off the board. He's going to go ahead and decide first that he wants to play that March Hare, just to establish a presence. And then pass the turn back to me. So knowing that there's that Burgeoning Despair there, it's a matter of what I want to try to do first. So I say, you know what, we'll go ahead and attempt to go to combat. It says in moving to combat, he's going to go ahead and cast that Burgeoning Despair. Oh no, I actually think he let me swing there. So I ping him for 2, take him down to 28, and then he says, you know, then it's going to die. You can gain your mystery counters, but then it's going to die. Which I don't really agree with. I think the right play there would have been to say, in moving to combat, Burgeoning Despair, just saving the damage, keeps mystery counters off from me. I'll go ahead and play the Skeleton Horde and then flip over Lich here. Looking at my 2 runes that I still have left, I have Spectre Rush and I have the Sand Awakening. So I have that Bane out on the field. He doesn't really have a way to deal with Lich at the same time, and Lich has a pretty big defense, sitting at 12. Feels like we're going to get to a point where things are going to start to get grindy. Down comes the Mephistopheles, which feels really bad after I just got rid of my Grim. And he plays the Siegfried. So Spectre Rush is pretty bad without Cycle of Death, unless you're just trying to cheese through a ton of damage. But even then, it's pretty bad. Swings in with the March Hare. I'll go ahead and block with Lich. He'll get to gain the life, sure. Go back up to 37, but it will die because Lich has that Bane. Going into my turn, I don't have, that's 2 Majin Dark Elves I think I have in my hand, which are neither cards that I want to cast, but I'm only at 7 life. Do have another Skeleton Horde. Ultimately, though, anything I play is going to come into play tapped. Go ahead and take the really risky play of hard casting a Welser, saying, you know, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die anyway. So I'll go ahead and take myself down to 1 life. Any swing is lethal here. Let's put a 1400 body on the field. That makes my spells duplicate. This would duplicate Sand Awakening too, because it is a chant/rune. So Welser himself could duplicate it to become a 2200 damage if needed at the end of the game. Plays that Atom Seikhert. Really don't feel comfortable with that. That's going to start removing a single card every turn, and that's not something I can really deal with, while also trying to match him card for card blocker-wise. Move to recover. Attempt to swing in for 14 with Welser. He says, well, I'll miscalculate that. It's the only other card that's in my hand. And I say, you know what? That's fine. Before he dies, I will cast this Life-Severing Blade, which will get duplicated by Welser. And I get to steal the Mephistopheles and the Atom Seikhert, getting them both off the field, leaving him with just the Siegfried. So now my other Skeleton Horde that's in my hands can get cast. I don't get a skeleton token off of Lich for that dying because it's a non-darkness resonator, but now that Mephistopheles is dead, I can put in that Skeleton Horde, and I can swing in with the first one, because if he decides to block, I'm going to get 2 skeleton tokens out of it, and then Lich can swing in and kill him. Can swing in and kill the Siegfried. So he might as well just take that 4 damage. Goes down to 33. Happens to top deck another Mephistopheles. Seen a lot of them this game. He knows he can't swing in with Siegfried because Lich will just kill it. So it's kind of this like Mexican standoff going on right now. So at that point in time, don't really see a chance to be able to establish a play. So I'll just pass the turn, leaving up enough blockers. You know, if one of the Skeleton Hordes dies, it leaves me with 2 blockers. So then it kind of gets me ahead. Plays that up. Acolyte, and then just passes the turn back to me. During the upkeep, we'll go ahead and we drew into another Life-Severing Blade, so we'll kill the Mephistopheles again. Could have swung in there with a Skeleton Horde, honestly, but decided not to. See a Messenger of the Sun who really isn't going to get him much impact until he gets into a rune. Play a Ray the Black Owl on my side, which is finally starting to tip the momentum back in my favor. Getting to a 0 when we're both in top decking mode is very, very good for me. Go to recover, because now the 0 can just start swinging in the air, and I can leave up this blocker wall and I can start chipping away. You also see that I drew into a Joan to Arc here, which is amazing, and there's Contract Demons in my hand, which are also unplayable at this point. So swinging in the air for 8. Takes him down to 25. He says, okay. Swing on the ground for 7. He says, that's fine. I'll take it. Go down to 18. Draws another Acolyte there, and then just has to pass the turn, because, again, he knows he can't get through the wall. Playing another Ray. Swinging in for 8, taking him down to 10. Swinging in for 7. He's going to block. So there actually was a position back there when he had 4 things and I had 2 blockers that could have potentially led to him winning. It would have entailed that I would have needed to block incorrectly and would have had to throw in a Skeleton Horde underneath the Lich into the... I would have had to throw in Lich into the Siegfried instead of the Skeleton Horde, because I would have needed Skeleton Horde to get me 2 more tokens. Ultimately, though, he can't really... He uses... After getting that second 0 to flip, he's going to use double miscalculation to kill one of the 0s. And then and then from there, he just folds to the rest of the pressure from the rest of the resonators. Double Gene being able to push through will finish the job there. swinging in with the Skeleton Horde, and then knowing that he still has one Resonator left, just for some flair, we'll cast the Spectre Rush, get myself a 2/2 Skeleton token that has Swiftness, and then we will attempt to swing in with the Skeleton token. And then when he goes to no blocks, because he doesn't have a block to be able to do, we'll say, we'll use that last Sand Awakening just to pump it up, just to use all those runes, and we'll call it a game. So there you guys have it. That is a 2-0 win for the Teacher's Lich list. Huge thanks to Steven for sitting down with me to play this game. It was a ton of fun, and it was a pleasure to meet him at Charlotte, as well as the other players at Charlotte. Deck lists for both of these lists will be up later this week, so be sure to tune back in to check in for those. And until next time, this is TMO73 saying, class dismissed.